Dank je.
Dat zijn zo'n soort die mini, hoe noemen die weer al? Die dingen die in Spanje zijn. Die set, ja. Zo dan ja. Moet je dat in één zo oppakken. Ja. Daar gaat echt heel groot naartoe en dat dan echt heel naar de testes gaan. En wat doen we dus? Staan we half over het dek. Ja.
Stop. Nee, wacht. Kijk, goed.
Transformational to indeed, given our long-term threat of Russia, but also the massive build-up of the military in China and the fact that North Korea, China, Iran are supporting the war effort in Ukraine. It's really important that we spend more, so that will be number one on the agenda today, a new plan when it comes to spending over the coming years. Of course, defense industrial production. We know that we are lacking a defense industrial base which is producing sufficiently. So we have fantastic companies, but they have to put in the extra production lines, they have to put in the extra shifts in making sure that we produce the ammunition and all the items we need. And Ukraine will be big at the summit today, will be discussed, making sure that Ukraine over the coming years will continue to count on the support of NATO countries to keep them in the fight, but also make sure that we can bring Ukraine to a durable and lasting peace. So a transformational summit, looking forward to it. And of course, hope to see you later today. I can now take a few questions, and then at the end, we will see each other at a press conference. And I see that CNBC wants to start.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Steve Sedgwick, CNBC, as you know, sir. Look, there's a lot of questions about Spain. There's a lot of questions about nations that do not feel they have the money in their budget to get to 2%, let alone 3.5%, let alone 5% in total as well. Do you fear that Spain could scupper this meeting and actually, sir, despite all your huge diplomatic efforts, incur the ire, the wrath of the United States?
No, I don't. I'm not worried about that. Of course, these are difficult decisions. Let's be honest. I mean, politicians have to make choices in scarcity. And this is not easy because 7, 8 countries at the start of this year not at 2%. They will now reach the 2% this year. Many of those countries said we will do it somewhere in the 2030s. They've now committed to do it this year. And already we added in an aggregate of $1 trillion since 2016, since Trump 45 started his first presidency. But today, and this is the third stage, we will add trillions extra with this new plan. But of course, you're right. The countries have to find the money. It's not easy. These are political decisions. I totally recognize that. But at the same time, there is absolute conviction with my colleagues at the table that given the threat from the Russians, given the international security situation, there is no alternative. We've got to do this, really.
Mr. Rutte, why won't Mr. Trump back Article 5?
For me, there is absolute clarity that the United States is totally committed to NATO, totally committed to Article 5, and yes, there is also an expectation, which will be fulfilled today, that the Canadians and the Europeans will speed up their spending, making sure that we not only are able to defend ourselves against the Russians and others, but also to equalize. And this is fair, that we spend the same as the US is spending. Sir, yes. The big thing about Article 5 and the good thing about Article 5 is that it is clear that we defend each other when we are attacked. But you will always get all these questions, yes, but if this cyber attack or this hybrid attack, we never go into those details.
General, you had dinner with Donald Trump yesterday. In what mood was he? And
excellent mood, and the king and queen were hosting a fantastic dinner in this. And I was so proud to sit in that Orange Hall, which is basically exemplar. I'm a historian, so this is about the history of the Dutch Republic. 1648, the Münster Peace Deal, and the king made a fantastic speech. You have seen it, I hope. I was also able to say a few words, so I think it was a great dinner.
Nederland dit allemaal gaan betalen? 5%, meneer Rutte.
Nederland is op 2 of 3 na het rijkste land van de wereld. Als wij het al niet kunnen betalen, wat kunnen we dan van de anderen? Wij zijn schatrijk. Dankzij verstandig beleid over de laatste jaren.
Gaat het pijn doen, meneer Rutte? Staat de NAVO er onder Trump beter voor dan onder Biden?
Ik denk dat de NAVO na vandaag er sterker voor staat dan ooit sinds de val van de Berlijnse muur.
Meneer Rutte, heeft u nog meer persoonlijke
Oh, spannend. We gaan het kijken. Maar ik heb er geen bezwaar tegen.
Maar heeft u er wel internationaal ook kritiek op gekregen?
Nee.
Want als je toch een beetje schaamteloos zei, maar de Europese landen die hebben die NAVO-norm mooi dankzij u gehaald.
Ja, is toch waar?
Wat de Europese landen zoals Spanje die zegt.
Hey, but listen, it's totally true. Would you really think that the 7 or 8 countries, not at 2%, at the beginning of this year, would have reached the 2% if Trump would not have been elected president of the United States? Do you really think that, of course, there is a threat from the Russians, China, etc., but that it would be doable to reach this commitment of 5% today? And I'm hopeful and cautiously optimistic we will get there. If Trump would not have been elected president, so I think what I said in the text message to him, totally fine that he published it, please, but totally fine that he published it, I think is a statement of fact.
Sharing this message. Are you okay with him sharing those SMS? Isn't that a little embarrassing?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What is in that text message is a statement of fact, and I'm totally fine that he shared it.
Meneer Rutte,
The attacks on Iran appear to be less positive, less successful than they looked before. Do you reconsider your congratulations?
No, not at all. And the 14 huge bombs dropped on the nuclear facility of Iran, I think this was crucial to really do everything possible to take out the nuclear capability of the Iranians, which NATO has always said Iran should not get its hands on. And therefore this decisive action by the United States was so important.
Secretary General, yesterday you told allies to stop worrying about the United States.
Yes.
But how can the allies stop worrying when Trump keeps relativizing Article 5 again and again?
I would think, look what the United States is doing, what Donald Trump is doing. They are spending almost $1 trillion on defense. They are by far the biggest contributor to NATO. They are delivering all the key enablers for NATO, also here in Europe. I mean, they are an important ally. They are by far the biggest ally in NATO. They are over 50% of the total NATO economy. But what we now will do over the coming years is to bring down, step by step, shift the burden away from the United States, more towards the Europeans and the Canadians, which I think is fair. And in the meantime, we will also equalize the spending. I think we now have to go because colleagues of mine, leaders of and presidents, I'm not a leader or a president, I'm only a Secretary General, but still former colleagues of mine will enter this building and want to speak to you. But I thought the children were here. They are there. Yes, please, you ask the last question. Am I excited? I'm excited, but to a level where I can still control it. Thank you.
7, 8.
Good morning. I hope you all sleep well. Het was een prima diner. But let me first say something in English. We are this day. I hope it will be an historic day for the reinforcement of our alliance, and that we are going to work very good in our alliance on strengthening our deterrence and our defense. I think it's absolutely necessary, and to make sure that we share the burden more financially, but also in our military tasking. As the Netherlands is concerned, we want to achieve two things today. Unity on the decision for the 3.5% and 1.5%, and at the same time make sure that we really ramp up also our defense industry, so that we're capable to strengthen our defense in itself. And that behind the backdrop of what's happening in Europe with the Russian aggression war going on in Ukraine. And at the same time, I want to say that I'm proud that the NATO summit is in The Hague, and that all the people living in The Hague, they share the burden also a little bit. And I'm very proud of everybody, the police, the military, all the volunteers and professionals that are working to make this day quite a success. Thank you.
So do you fear that unity that you crave, that you said is absolutely pivotal, can happen at this meeting, given the fact that we already know that your friend Pedro Sanchez of Spain actually has said that Spain cannot get to those levels? Do you think that unity will happen today?
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure. Because what you agree on is that we need the capabilities. As Spain said, they think they can manage it with another amount of financing. We think we need the 3.5% and 1.5%. So I think we still share we will deliver unity today. Absolutely.
How confident are you that all the allies will actually be able to implement the 5% by 2035?
I think we can. It's still a long time. I mean, it's in relation to our security, 10 years is quite a long time. So I think we should all step up our defense spending, and we should reach the 3.5% and 1.5%. But what's important is that defense spending is related to the capabilities we defined we need to make sure we get our deterrence and our defense in the right position. I will switch to Dutch. Ja, dat is moeilijk te zeggen. Er zijn verschillende opties om de uitgaven te doen, maar ook aan te kijken op welke manier je het uiteindelijk financiert. En wat we als kabinet hebben gezegd en ook in het parlement hebben gezegd en ook daar met elkaar hebben afgesproken, is dat elke keer jaar op jaar wordt bekeken hoe we de stapjes kunnen zetten naar de 3,5 en 1,5%.
Meneer Schoof.
Dit zijn miljarden. Maar nogmaals, er zijn verschillende opties, zowel aan de uitgavenkant als aan de financieringskant, en die moeten elke keer worden afgewogen.
Meneer Schoof, waar moet de Nederlandse belastingbetaler betalen voor de veiligheid van Spanje als de Spaanse belastingbetaler niet gaat betalen voor onze veiligheid?
Uiteindelijk betalen we denk ik allemaal voor onze gezamenlijke veiligheid in Europa. En het is niet zo dat het ene land meer gaat betalen dan het andere land. Er zijn capabilities gedefinieerd, die moeten we realiseren. Daar hangt een prijskaartje aan. Als dan een land op dit moment denkt dat ze dat met een ander prijskaartje doen, dan kan je nog steeds zeggen dat je unity hebt over datgene wat je wil bereiken. En dan zal de tijd leren wie er uiteindelijk gelijk heeft. Maar wij denken dat de 3,5 en 1,5% nodig zijn om dit te bereiken.
Is 2035 niet te laag? Baltische staten zullen misschien zeggen dat is na de oorlog.
Ik zei eerder al dat 2035 is 10 jaar vanaf nu gerekend. Dat is best een lange tijd. Wij het ook hebben nu over onze veiligheid. Maar er is ook steeds sprake van een periode. Nu is onze afschrikking nog steeds op orde. Maar waar we ons zorgen over maken is de geweldige opbouw van de Russische militaire capaciteit. Zowel aan zeg maar de hoogte van de Oekraïne, maar ook überhaupt langs de hele oostgrens. Ze spenderen onvoorstelbaar veel geld op de militaire industrie. En dat betekent dat we de komende jaren echt moeten zeg maar bijfinancieren, zou je bijna moeten zeggen, om te zorgen dat we onze afschrikking en onze defensie op orde houden.
But if it's only about capabilities, as Spain says, why do we need the 5% at all? And why wouldn't other countries also say, let's not pay the 5% because we will fulfill the capabilities?
No, but the percentages are related to the capabilities. And also in the NATO capability studies, and this also in the Netherlands the case, we clearly define that to meet the capabilities, we have to ramp up our spending to 3.5% at least. So that's what we think and what NATO thinks. And I think that's important. But it's about capabilities and then the financing. And I'm sure that we will find unity around all these issues today.
Should be there any consequences to Spain if they don't reach the target spending the 2.1%?
Oh, it's much too early to talk about any repercussions. I mean, today is an important decision-making process. And I'm sure we find unity about the decision process. That's important. That's what also the Secretary General worked on also the last few days. So I'm sure and confident that we reach that unity and that we ramp up our defense spending, that we ramp up our defense industry, and therefore can deliver to the people in Europe deterrence and defense and peace and prosperity.
Premier Schoof, even in het Nederlands.
Article 5 means when somebody attacks you, NATO will help in defending.
Donald Trump says there are numerous definitions. Do you think that's the case?
No, Article 5 is very clear. Thank you.
Nog even,
I'm just going.
I
will now walk to the Dutch press.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, you come over here.
Meneer Schoof, wie runt hier vandaag de show? Is dat Trump of is dat Mark Rutte?
Nee, dit is de NATO. Dus dit is een vergadering van alle regeringsleiders, van alle 32. En gezamenlijk besluiten wij vandaag wat we gaan doen.
Ja, maar toch is het zo dat Mark Rutte gisteren ook naar Donald Trump heeft gestuurd. Eigenlijk alles wat nu is gelukt, die 5%, dat komt door u. Dus dan is Trump toch degene die de show runt?
Nou, ik denk dat Trump een belangrijke bijdrage heeft geleverd door te eisen dat de balans meer zoeken op de uitgaven en daarmee naar die 5%. Maar uiteindelijk heeft elk land zijn eigen afweging gemaakt en staan we gezamenlijk voor het ophogen van die 5% om te zorgen dat we uiteindelijk de Russische agressie, maar ook vrede en veiligheid in de wereld kunnen garanderen.
Maakt u zich zorgen over het feit dat Trump zich wel gaat houden aan artikel 5?
Nee, ik denk dat ook Trump en Amerika zich gewoon houdt aan artikel 5. Artikel 5 is vrij helder.
Heeft Trump daar gisteravond tijdens het diner nog iets over gezegd? Heeft u hem gesproken?
Nou, we hebben elkaar kort gesproken, maar dat ging over andere dingen dan over artikel 5.
Is er nog een afspraak gemaakt tussen de twee, tussen Trump en Zelensky, om elkaar vandaag te zien?
Ja, voor zover mij bekend hebben zij vandaag nog een ontmoeting na de North Atlantic Council.
Oh, waar hebben ze die?
Dat moet u mij niet vragen, daar ga ik niet over.
En is er tijdens het diner ook nog gesproken over de tweet van Rutte naar Trump?
Nou, een aantal regeringsleiders vonden het opvallend dat het berichtje wat Rutte had gestuurd aan Trump meteen openbaar werd gemaakt. Maar er is ook een commentaar van Mark Rutte daar zelf over gezien.
Wat vond u daarvan?
Nou, er stond niks verkeerds in volgens mij.
Maar vond u het niet een beetje te veel?
Nou, het is belangrijk, denk ik, dat ook aan de president van Amerika werd aangegeven dat we vandaag gewoon eenheid bereiken.
Maar was het niet een beetje in de overdrive?
Nou, iedereen heeft zo zijn eigen woorden die ze kiezen. En die heeft gisteren ook volgens mij de speeches van Rutte en de koning ook bij het diner kunnen horen. En het is denk ik belangrijk dat ook de president van Amerika weet dat we vandaag gewoon die eenheid kunnen bereiken op die 5,5 of die 3,5%.
Maar hoe viel dat bericht bij de rest van de wereld?
Kan Nederland niet het goede voorbeeld geven aan landen als Spanje?
Nee, maar de vraag is niet of we schatrijk zijn. De vraag is of we bereid zijn te zorgen dat we de capabilities op orde hebben. Dat kost geld. En daar heeft Nederland, ook in het Nederlands parlement, brede steun voor gekregen om die positie ook vandaag te kunnen innemen. Daarom ga ik ervan uit dat niet alleen Nederland, maar alle landen de verklaringen zullen steunen die we vandaag met elkaar willen bereiken. En dan dus ook vandaag een historische dag wordt in de reinforcement, zoals ik net zei, van de NATO-alliantie.
Alleen Nederland moet nog wel een miljarden daarvoor gaan vinden.
Nee, maar alle landen moeten de miljarden daarvoor gaan vinden. Maar we hebben allemaal de bereidheid uitgesproken om dat te gaan doen. En er zijn verschillende manieren waarop je de uitgaven zeg maar, ten opzichte van elkaar kan wegen. We hebben ook in Nederland, ook in het parlement gezegd, je moet je integraal wegen. En er zijn verschillende manieren waarop je ook naar de financiering kan kijken.
Francisco, vreest u voor het humeur van Trump nu de aanval op Iran een stuk minder succesvol lijken?
Nou, ik vond hem gisteren buitengewoon zeg maar, relaxed en goed gehumeurd. Dus ik ga ervan uit dat hij, als hij goed geslapen heeft op het paleis en het ontbijt goed is geweest, dat hij ook op de North Atlantic Council met een goed humeur aanschuift.
Vindt u ook niet dat er wel heel veel aandacht is voor Trump hier? We hebben het zelfs over hoe hij slaapt.
Ja, dat vraagt u mij. Ik bedoel,
Nee, maar goed,
ik genereer die aandacht niet. Dus de secretaris-generaal van de NATO, Mark Rutte, is voorzitter van de vergadering. En dat is ook
de voorzitter is wel iets anders dan de baas.
Nee, maar hij is de voorzitter van de vergadering, dus hij zorgt dat we dit allemaal in goede banen leiden.
Dus toch nog even over Trump. Hij postte natuurlijk een berichtje op social media gisteren over Sanchez opnieuw. Hoe moet dat nou straks gaan met die ontmoeting tussen Trump en Sanchez? Heeft u daar een beetje buikpijn van?
Nee, ik denk dat we vandaag unity bereiken, omdat we uiteindelijk ook Spanje zich bereid heeft verklaard de verklaring vandaag gewoon te ondertekenen.
Maar we hebben Trump eerder bezig gezien in de zaal met andere wereldleiders om zich heen. Het kan toch voor een verrassing gaan zorgen.
Zeker, maar laten we er nou vanuit gaan dat het nou vandaag net allemaal iets anders gaat. Maar we gaan het allemaal zo meteen zien. Ik ga ervan uit dat we in de 3 uur die we hebben overeenstemming bereiken en de verklaring daarna kan worden uitgegeven. En uiteindelijk het allerbelangrijkste is dat we naar die verhoging van de defensieuitgaven gaan, omdat we daarmee de burden-sharing tussen de Verenigde Staten en Europa beter in balans kunnen brengen. En uiteindelijk datgene waar denk ik de mensen in Europa ook recht op hebben. Ervoor te zorgen dat we vrede en veiligheid kunnen realiseren. Gezien de toenemende agressie van Rusland in Europa en de Oostgrens.
Is er genoeg aandacht voor
Ik doe nog 1 vraag.
Vragen u en andere Sanchez om zich een beetje gedijst te houden om een clash met Trump te voorkomen?
Ik denk dat dat niet nodig is. We hebben goede afspraken gemaakt. In de hele voorbereiding is eindeloos over onderhandeld. En ik ga ervan uit dat we vandaag het belangrijke besluit, denk ik ook door veelal als historisch gezien, hier in Den Haag, toch in de stad van vrede en recht, kunnen nemen om te zorgen dat NATO sterker wordt. En daarmee defensie en veiligheid veel beter kan worden gerealiseerd in Europa en in de wereld. Dank u wel, tot ziens.
We staan nu bijna in de split.
7, 8.
So good morning. We've had a very successful summit so far, and the main messages are that we are now ramping up, and the alliance is the strongest it's ever been, and it will become stronger by the day. At the same time, our support for Ukraine is steadfast, and we want a ceasefire now. It's only Putin who hasn't been willing to ceasefire, and now is the time to push him for that. And our strategy is threefold. First of all, obviously ramping up our own defense and deterrence for the security of the free world. Second, putting pressure on Russia. And here we need to work as individual countries, as the European Union, United States. We are hoping for the sanctions package, which is in the Senate, to go forward, hopefully next week. And third, of course, keep on aiding Ukraine, who is fighting for each and every one of us. So thank you so much. Looking forward to a fruitful day today.
Minister, do you feel that actually unity is going to be hard to achieve today, and actually the United States is going to be incredibly upset at the behaviour of some nations which are struggling to get to 2%, let alone even promising to get to 3.5%?
Well, first of all, it has to be said that unity at a lower level is much worse than discussions at a much higher level where we are now. I sense a very strong unity around the fact that we are going to reach 5% of defense spending. We are going to build a strong defense industry which covers the entire alliance with no room for protectionism of individual countries. And at the same time, of course, each country has their own concerns on how to reach the targets, but we will be easily fitting those in. And what has to be noted, again, we are in a such much stronger situation now than we've ever been before.
Minister, how concerned are you about the somehow unpredictable definition of Article 5 by President Trump?
Well, you see, Article 5 is quite clearly spelled out in the Washington Treaty, and that is something that NATO relies on. And I am so certain that President Trump is also 100% behind it. At the same time, once Article 5 is activated, like we saw, the only time it has been activated for the help of the United States, it is, of course, political decisions by all the allies on how they want to contribute. And now, let's get the facts straight. We are so much stronger now with the capabilities we have today, the capabilities we are going to have tomorrow, that if such a situation would ever occur, we would be so much stronger together than ever before. And at the same time, of course, we are doing this to deter from war. So that's what we are working on.
To state unequivocally, though, that he's committed to Article 5. He said very clearly that he's willing to stand by you. He isn't saying that at the moment.
Everything we are hearing from the US administration is pointing to the fact that the US is a strong ally in NATO and extremely committed. And we had a very fruitful dinner last night with my colleague Marco Rubio, and we heard exactly the right words.
Minister Valtonen, you mentioned Ukraine. Are you worried that we are forgetting Ukraine?
Well, nobody is forgetting Ukraine. We actually had a very good dinner last night with our colleague Andrei Subia from Ukraine, and now I'm going to sit down with him together with my Nordic colleagues. And there's steadfast commitment to further strengthening Ukraine in its defense for its freedom, liberty, and the democratic values which it stands for.
Do you believe that Donald Trump will defend every single ally, regardless of what their spending represents? Or do you think he's going to attach his ability to defend countries on whether they're meeting the new NATO spending target?
Everything we hear from the United States is that they are extremely committed, and there is no doubt whatsoever. At the same time, Europe is ramping up now massively, so the alliance is so much stronger than it's ever been. Thank you so very much.
if Germany can up its defence, can't the Spanish?
Pardon?
So if Germany can up their defence to reinvigorate the Bundeswehr, why can't the Spanish?
I don't know, but I think they will.
But do you think the Spanish sir will get anywhere near 3.5%?
I'm convinced. My colleague Margarita.
Convinced there'll be unity today, sir?
Yes, I am, absolutely.
Good morning to everybody. It's a historic day. And I would like to make 3 points. The first one is about defense expenditure. It's a historic moment that we will be ramping up defense expenditure to 5%. I strongly, and Estonia strongly supports it. That means a message from NATO is coming that NATO is much stronger, more lethal. Estonia's defense expenditure next year will be already 5.4% of GDP, so that is also a message to our allies and our friends that NATO is strong and members are strong. Second message is that we need to ramp up our defense capabilities and defense industry, because if you look at the performance, Russia in 3 months is producing the ammunition that NATO members are producing per year. So that means that we need to ramp up our defense expenditure and industry. That means also the boost for economy. And third one is probably with the most importance is that we should be behind Ukraine all the way. Ukraine belongs to NATO, to Europe, that's understandable, and all the guarantees coming from the NATO are probably the best guarantees for Ukraine to have this support and security in the future, and just and lasting peace. So this is a historic day, and thank you. Yeah.
Actually, Mr. Zelensky is right, and that there will be an attack on a NATO country within 5 years, and if there is, that actually Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia are the key targets potentially for Putin's aggression.
We know our neighbor, to be honest. We know Putin. And until Putin changes his goals, probably Russia is an acute threat to all the NATO countries, all the NATO members, European members, Union members, to be honest. And I would say that we should not be afraid, but we should be prepared. And to be honest, it's our neighbors Finns' motto, but we shall be prepared. And investing in defense probably helps to be prepared, not afraid. So we are assisting Ukraine. With everything we have. Our expenditure to Ukraine is 0.3% of our GDP to Ukraine this year, and if we can do more, we will do more. Thank you.
Yeah. How confident are you that the 5% are actually going to be implemented and not another empty promise, like 2% will work? And are you concerned that there will be more opt-outs like Spain?
I'm quite sure that it will be implemented because how the world is today, because Russia has shown what it is. Estonia has known for a long time, Baltics, Nordics have known for a long time what Russia is. And nobody believed. They were thought as very friendly guys who like to drink tea and love children. But right now they are occupying Ukraine, killing innocent people. So I would say that ramping up defense expenditure is a must if you want to have freedom. And Europe is a free area. NATO countries like also their freedom. So I would say it's a must for everybody. And if you look at the numbers and figures, everybody is investing right now. And our expenditure, as already said, Estonia's expenditure next year will be 5.4% of GDP. So these are not empty words. We are doing what we can, and I hope that this is also example to other countries. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to get Donald Trump to commit to Article 5 unequivocally?
Absolutely, but I would say that for me Article 5 is absolutely working, and I would say that every time also the states needs our allies and our assistance, we will be there. Thank you.
Are you worried about Spain supports Article 5? Is 2035 not too late?
Okay. I can go.
Prime Minister.
So,
Prime Minister, I'm sorry.
this is the length of this meeting is really not indicative of the historic dimension. I think, you know, we are connecting the dots now in NATO by getting the resources necessary to deliver on the capabilities. That's the important part. And from the Norwegian side, we will talk about the Arctic, the high north. NATO needs to be present there. That's where we are eyes and ears of NATO next to neighbor Russia. And we need to be talking about our common effort to support Ukraine. That is not really agenda point here, but we need to do it when we are together around the table.
Prime Minister, huge commitment from the northern NATO members, huge commitment from Norway, Finland, Sweden, the Baltics, the Poles as well. Do you feel as the southern neighbours, and we go further geographically south, that NATO members just don't have the same interest in spending 3.5% and getting to 5%, including infrastructure?
Well, I mean, this declaration is historic. We are 32 allies supporting that ambition, which is huge. I mean, remember, we have been struggling to get above 2%, and now we said 3.5%, which is necessary in order to reach our capabilities. And I just take it that, you know, we're going to do that together.
Crucial decision when it comes.
We are all behind that declaration.
Norway deploys soldiers to Finnish Lapland, to FLF force. What you can tell about that?
Well, Finland is our closest neighbor and friend, now NATO ally, and we work very closely together on Finnish dimension, which is along land border. Norwegian dimension is along sea border. And that's what the Northern Nordic is all about. It's about understanding each other's situation and supporting security from the collective perspective.
Prime Minister, Prime Minister, get in the way of the 5% target that is actually implemented.
Please, once more.
What could actually get in the way of implementing the 5% target?
Well, I think, you know, the important part now is the percentage is set. But it's only important if we're able to have that translated into the capabilities. So we have to invest in the right equipment that goes together. If we all do the same thing just because we want to be similar, that is not delivering. So we have NATO plans, which we have agreed in Vilnius and in Washington. We have a new command structure we need to get working. So we really have to be investing in the right capabilities in the right sequence.
What about Spain, who say that they can do it less?
But why won't Donald Trump say publicly?
Well, I think we have 3.5 plus 1.5. The 1.5 is a kind of a new dimension, but I can tell you there's a lot we need to do in order to support our defense. I mean, from a Norwegian perspective, we have infrastructure, we have ports, we have defense against cyber, a lot of enabling capacities in society that we have to support.
Prime Minister, it seems everybody here is flattering Donald Trump and helping him. Is this the best strategy to deal with Donald Trump?
I think we have to deal man to man, woman to woman, woman to man. We have to be allies.
But everything revolves around his ego.
You know, we deal with our allies as close friends and partners, and that goes for all.
Prime Minister,
Thank you.
Are you worried about Mr. Trump's somewhat ambiguous comments on Article 5? Do you think it's still working?
I take it the US is 100% behind NATO obligations and Article 5. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just begin by saying that I'm very happy to be here at my second NATO summit. I feel that Finland's been a NATO member only for a couple of years, but we are quite seasoned. We're a security provider, not a security consumer. I think this summit will be historic for three reasons. The first reason is that we go back to the roots of the alliance. In other words, functioning as a collective comprehensive defense system to deter Russia. The second one is that we go back to the defense expenditure levels of the Cold War, 3.5% plus 1.5. And the third reason is that I think we're witnessing the birth of a new NATO, which means a more balanced NATO and a NATO which has more European responsibility. So in that sense, I'm really looking forward to the conversations that we have.
Mr. President, you joined NATO after decades, centuries of neutrality, in order to face down the Russian threat because you believe there was an Article 5 assurance. Do you have concerns that Article 5 remains the same as when you joined and what you thought it meant?
I do not have any concerns about that. And for us, defense is based on two very simple pillars. One is a strong, independent defense that we've been working on over decades because of the Russian threat. And the second one is NATO's Article 5, of which we are, of course, a strong part because after the war in Ukraine, NATO has doubled its border with Russia through Finland. So we have responsibility and we have full trust in Article 5. Wait, one at a time. We'll go like this and that. Yeah.
How many times will you have to play golf with Donald Trump until he stops relativizing Article 5?
I don't think President Trump is relativizing Article 5, and golf is a good way to discuss business.
Does President Trump see Putin as the biggest threat to the NATO alliance?
If we look at today's declaration of 5 points, it is quite clear that the number one threat to Europe and the alliance is Russia. We are not building up our defense expenditure because we are worried about any other European states. Finnish media.
Speaking of the age of restlessness during the last 3 years that we're living through, do you believe that in your during your presidency, your lifetime, Europe is actually going to be able to relax and enjoy peace again?
No, I think we're witnessing a change in the world order. It's very similar to the moment that we witnessed after World War I, World War II, and the Cold War. And of course, after World War I, we got it wrong. After World War II, the balance was more or less right. And after the Cold War, I think we got intellectually lazy. Now we need to sort things out, understand that the time of Western dominance is over. We're moving towards a world which is more transactional, which is more multipolar, and which is more disorderly. And this means, at least for a country like Finland, that we need to have close allies and we need to work on building up our security and defense. I'll take. Tämä on NATOlle hyvin keskeinen kokous, monella tapaa historiallinen 3 syystä. Ensimmäinen syy on se, että NATO palaa juurilleen, eli toimittaa vasteen Venäjälle. Toinen syy on se, että palaamme kylmän sodan aikaisiin puolustusmenoihin. Ja 3. syy on se, että syntyy uusi NATO, joka on eurooppalaisempi ja tasapainoisempi. Do you want me to translate? I don't think we're going to see a clash. I mean, I've seen the order of dialogue coming up, and I'm very confident that we'll get through this. Remember, this is a big win, I think, for both President Trump, and I think it's also a big win for Europe. But I'm actually taking his space. Thank you very much.
about that, so I have to...
Fully disagree?
Yes.
dacht dat het de bedoeling was, ja. Kort. Ja, allemaal. Goedemorgen.
What are you expecting from today's declaration on the 5%? Will there be more opt-outs also from Belgium, from the Spanish model?
I would like to underline that there are no opt-outs whatsoever. Everybody accepts the same text. It's a matter of interpretation. You have to do the 5% and the capabilities, and the interpretation of Spain is that they can realize the capabilities without doing 3.5% of the GDP. Well, this remains to be seen. If this is their interpretation, it is everybody's interpretation.
What is Belgium going to do? 5%. What is Belgium going to do to reach their capabilities? Are European leaders fiddling the figures?
We're not fiddling the figures. I think 3.5% in 10 years' time is a realistic objective. It won't be easy to get there, but it is what NATO has decided as necessary to be ready for the threat that comes from Russia on one side, and the other side there's also the burden shift, the reality that the United States is focusing on the Indo-Pacific theater, and that we as Europeans should take care of ourselves. I don't think it is wise to comment on that, but it is a reality that we face. So as Europeans, we should realize that our long break from history is over, and that we have to take our own responsibility for the security of our own continent in a very difficult time. Sorry? Well, there's the capability targets that we have to achieve, and if you can do it for less than 3.5% on the strict defense spending, that would be great. If we can do it, we will try to do it as well. But NATO is not foolish. If they say it's going to be 3.5 to get it done, it's probably true. But we have the evaluation in 2029 that is also decided. We'll see how the world looks like in 5 years' time. Not all at the same time. There can be no discussion on Article 5, I believe. It is crucial that Article 5 is not subject to interpretation. Ja, wij hebben niet gedaan wat we moesten doen. We zijn lang een beetje een freeloader geweest binnen de NAVO. Er zijn nog andere landen die de 2% niet hebben gerealiseerd. Daarom was het voor mij belangrijk naar hier te komen met de 2% gerealiseerd. En ook een strategische visie om dat ook daadwerkelijk vorm te geven. En wij hebben ook al een plan om boven de 2% uit te stijgen in de komende jaren. Wij hebben op dit moment nog geen planning voor de 3,5%, maar we hebben wel afgesproken na deze NAVO-top om daar terug over samen te zitten. We hebben 10 jaar tijd, we hebben een vrij budgetair traject en we hebben uiteraard de mogelijkheid om, als we onze capaciteiten kunnen realiseren voor minder, van het ook voor minder te doen.
Meneer De Wever.
Wel, dat is een vraag die vele regeringsleiders zich op dit moment stellen. Wij hebben tijdens de Koude Oorlog altijd dit soort cijfers gerealiseerd, maar we zijn dat al tientallen jaren niet meer gewoon. Dus dat betekent dat wij zeer moeilijke beslissingen moeten nemen. We hebben wel een timeframe gekregen om dat ook effectief te doen. En ik hoop dat ons dat zal lukken. Wel, er is voorzien in die 1,5% dat daar natuurlijk alle mogelijke weerbaarheidsuitgaven ook in rekening kunnen worden genomen, ook voor infrastructuur. Dat is natuurlijk een heel breed palet en ik denk, en het is ook mogelijk dat ook andere entiteiten, niet alleen de lidstaten, maar ook de deelstaten eraan kunnen bijdragen, inderdaad.
Meneer De Wever.
Het diner was nu niet van een aard dat wij allemaal heel serieuze besprekingen met elkaar hebben gehad. Dat was eerder een opwarmertje voor wat er vandaag moet gebeuren. Dus dat is gezellig verlopen.
Meneer De Wever.
You have a loud voice, which is very handy if you're talking all at the same time. The fighter jets haven't been decided yet. We know that in the capabilities that Belgium is obligated to achieve, there is aerial defense, and we will achieve that capability. We just haven't decided yet on how we're going to do it, but certainly on the if we're going to do it, there's a decision. Well, ik zal dat zien, maar ik ben daar eerlijk gezegd niet bang van. En als die er komt, dan zal ik er ook niet van onder de indruk zijn, eerlijk gezegd. Oh, dat zal ik zien, hè. Dat hangt er vanaf. Ik weet niet of dat ik die ga krijgen, die bolwassing. We zullen dat wel zien. Maar ik maak me daar helemaal niet zenuwachtig over. Wij zijn een autonoom land en wij zijn geen kolonie van een ander land. Ik denk dat eenheid uitstralen voor deze top heel belangrijk is. En dus ik denk dat we allemaal op onze woorden moeten letten. Want wij staan onder dreiging van opkomende machten enerzijds, Indo-Pacific, maar anderzijds ook het imperialisme van Rusland, het gewapend imperialisme. Het is dus niet het moment om vechtend over de straat te rollen. Dus ik denk dat we op onze lip moeten bijten. Maar we moeten ons als Europeanen de komende 10 jaar wel realiseren dat we onze eigen strategische autonomie moeten uitbouwen en dat we dus capabilities moeten realiseren die we vandaag nog niet hebben. Anders zullen wij het geopolitieke spel moeten blijven ondergaan in plaats van spelen. Well, I understand, of course, the budgetary problems that my Spanish colleague has, because I have exactly the same problems. We're almost in the same situation. So if he says that he can achieve the capability targets of Spain spending less money, that's an interpretation that he has. Mark Rutte has confirmed that this interpretation is correct. And if he can do so, that would be great. And of course, if he can do so, others can do so as well. And we will certainly also try to achieve our capability targets. And if possible, spend less than 3.5% of our GDP. Okay? We accept the same text for the 32 NATO members. It's important to stress upon that. There is no opt-out. There are no special treatments for any member state. It is the same text. And if the interpretation of Spain is correct, anybody can interpret the text in the same way. Okay? Because, of course, the strategists of NATO have calculated the amount of money needed with the prices of today to achieve the capability targets, and that should be around 3.5% of GDP of all the NATO member states to actually get it done. And I guess these people are not foolish, they know what they talk about, so probably they're right. It would be great to see that you can do what is calculated to be 3.5 for 2.1. as Pedro Sanchez has said. If he can do so, he's a genius. And of course, geniality inspires people. Okay? Ja, u weet dat ik met een Nederlandse vrouw getrouwd ben en dat ik dus heel erg houd van dit land. Dus voor mij was het heel bijzonder en een beetje thuiskomen. Dankjewel. Ik denk dat Mark Rutte een moeilijke job heeft om iedereen in deze alliantie tevreden te houden. En dat hij veel moeite doet om zich van die taak te kwijten.
Maar was het niet een beetje over de top?
Hij doet veel moeite om zich van die taak te kwijten.
Meneer De Wever, uw eigen parlement noemde de NAVO-verhoging compleet crazy. Hoe staat u er nu in?
Ja, 5% van ons bbp uitgeven aan defensie, dat is nu niet direct iets waar je vrolijk van wordt. Maar als dat noodzakelijk is, dan zullen wij zien wat we kunnen doen. We hebben een langere tijdsperiode gekregen, flexibiliteit in het parcours en evaluatie in 29. Dat is wat we vroegen en dat is wat we gekregen hebben.
Wie runt vandaag de show eigenlijk? Is dat Mark Rutte of is dat Trump?
Hoe zegt u?
Wie runt vandaag de show? Wie is hier eigenlijk de baas?
Mark Rutte is de secretaris-generaal van de NAVO. Hij runt de show. De grootste lidstaat en de grootste spender in defensie, dat is uiteraard de Verenigde Staten. Daar zijn we ons van bewust. En als wij als Europeanen meer gelijke tred willen houden, dan zullen we meer moeten uitgeven. Niet om plezier te doen aan meneer Trump, maar om op gelijke hoogte te komen en ons eigen continent te kunnen verdedigen. Dank je wel, Ed. I'm not saying that I'm not going to spend 3.5%. We accept the capability targets. We have already augmented our defense spending. We're planning to do more. We have a period of 10 years, and we will see what happens. We have an evaluation in 2029. We will see how the world looks like. But we want to be a NATO member that is loyal to its obligations. I'll take that. I think I already answered that question in Dutch. Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
His custodianship of NATO. He had big shoes to fill, but I think he's doing a really good job in what is his first year. Thank you.
Dzień dobry, witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie. Szanowni Państwo, no, mój 11. i ostatni szczyt NATO. Bardzo się cieszę, że spotykamy się i cieszę się, że wszystko zapowiada jedność krajów sojuszu także i tym razem. Przede wszystkim w tej najważniejszej i ostatnio bardzo często rozważanej kwestii podwyższenia wydatków na obronność. Także mam nadzieję, że podejmiemy tutaj razem decyzję w tej sprawie, jak również i w innych kwestiach, które są dla nas bardzo ważne, jeżeli chodzi o budowanie przede wszystkim bezpieczeństwa wschodniej flanki NATO. Z naszego polskiego punktu widzenia to jest fundamentalnie ważna sprawa. Mówię tutaj o wypełnieniu planów obronnych, którego przyspieszenie jest konieczne. Mówię także o organizacji brygadowych grup bojowych, które także są decyzją jednego ze szczytów NATO, które były wcześniej. Natomiast dzisiaj rzeczywiście najważniejsza jest sprawa wydatków na obronność. To po pierwsze, tak jak mówię, mam nadzieję, że będziemy mieli jedność. Wszystko zapowiada, że tak. Natomiast druga kwestia dla nas bardzo ważna w Polsce to przedłużenie rurociągów prowadzących paliwo, strategicznych rurociągów NATO prowadzących paliwo, które dzisiaj kończą się w Europie Zachodniej, przedłużenie ich na wschodnią flankę NATO, bo to jest w tej chwili bardzo istotne do tego, żeby rzeczywiście zapewnić obronę. Oczywiście będziemy dyskutowali też o innych kwestiach, będziemy dyskutowali też o rozwoju przemysłów obronnych, co jak Państwo wiecie doskonale jest w tej chwili niezbędne. To pokazała zresztą też i rosyjska agresja na Ukrainę. Skala, w jakiej potrzebne jest uzbrojenie, a przede wszystkim amunicja. Więc to będą te wszystkie tematy, które dzisiaj będziemy omawiali. No oczywiście na pewno będzie poruszona też kwestia dalszej pomocy dla Ukrainy. No i problem konfliktu bliskowschodniego też pewnie będzie poruszany na tym szczycie, chociaż wcześniej, jak wiadomo, nie był przewidywany w harmonogramie prac, no ale to jest sprawa względnie nowa i pewnie będzie poruszona.
Mr. President, if Poland can get to 5%, why can't other countries get to 5%? What is your message to those countries, and do you think it endangers the alliance, sir?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Poland, of course, is making great strides to get to 5% and beyond as a percentage of GDP in its military spending. If Poland can do it, why can't other countries? What is your message to those other countries? Do you fear that it endangers the alliance and the US involvement if they don't get to 5%?
Precisely, I was the first leader who put this topic on the table. That was in March in the White House when I had a meeting with President Joe Biden. And I said to President, we have to increase military spendings in allied countries because it's absolutely necessary. We have to spend as much money for defense as we spent, as NATO countries spent during the Cold War. Because it's necessary. You see the threat of Russian potential aggression. You see the Russian imperialist policy, and this is absolutely necessary. So that was the first moment. Then in April 24, I talked with President Donald Trump in New York, in Trump Tower. The president was a candidate for the election. And I always repeated to him I'd also repeated to him that we should increase the military spendings. And I sent a letter to the Mark Rutte as a new Secretary General of NATO in March this year. Yes, that this topic should be one of the elements of the schedule of this NATO summit. So you see the discussion. Szanowni Państwo, no, dwie są podstawowe zasady w NATO. Jedność, bo ona jest konieczna do tego, żeby podjąć jakąkolwiek decyzję. Jeżeli podejmiemy decyzję o 5%, to nie ma dyskusji pod tytułem, czy ktoś wydaje, czy ktoś nie wydaje. Wszyscy mają obowiązek wydawać. Artykuł 5 jest jasny i wyraźny i oznacza kolektywną obronę. I nie ma tutaj żadnej dyskusji wokół tego artykułu. I'm absolutely sure. I'm absolutely sure. You know, it's difficult to say. Of course, I prefer to have it much earlier, yes, in 2030. But, you know, this is policy.
President played an important role in reaching the 5% declaration today, hopefully. How do you feel about Mark Rutte giving all the credit to Donald Trump yesterday in his private text messages?
You know, the position of the President of the United States is the strongest in the alliance. So I understand that without the support of and without the leadership of Donald Trump, it would be impossible. Szanowni Państwo, no są, że tak powiem, bardzo różne sytuacje. Były takie szczyty NATO, że mieliśmy z panem prezydentem Trumpem nawet kilkadziesiąt minut do tego, żeby spokojnie usiąść i porozmawiać. W bardzo, bym powiedział, wręcz takich prywatnych warunkach. Trudno jest mi dzisiaj powiedzieć. Na pewno będziemy mieli jakieś interakcje, no bo będziemy razem na sali, będziemy na pewno rozmawiali w trakcie szczytu. Natomiast czy będzie taka możliwość, żeby usiąść spokojnie, to zależy od bieżącej sytuacji po prostu.
Why would Vladimir Putin wait 10 years for NATO
You know, I think that Russia is exhausted because of their aggression against Ukraine after this more than 3 years of aggression. Yes, and I don't expect that Russia is ready to attack other country now, but in the future, this is real risk. So we have to prepare ourselves. We have to increase our defense, our spendings on defense, because it's absolutely necessary for our security and for a future.
Mr. President, do you believe that
Thank you.
Polish leadership will be committed?
Mr. Prime Minister.
Good morning. Let me start by, first of all, as a country at the outer edge of the Eastern Mediterranean, welcome the ceasefire that was brokered by President Trump between Israel and Iran. But at the same time, let me express my firm belief that permanent solutions can only be found through active diplomacy. At the same time, it's important not to forget the other aspects of this regional crisis. It is absolutely necessary that we implement a ceasefire in Gaza, that humanitarian aid flows into Gaza. This is a big component of a permanent solution to the problem of instability in the region. Now, coming to the summit, I think it is very encouraging that we have all agreed to a significant increase in our defense spending. I have been a strong proponent of the need for Europe to step up our military spending and take more ownership over our own collective defense. Greece is a country which is currently spending more than 3% on defense, and we have consistently exceeded the 2% threshold, even during the very difficult times of the economic crisis. So I welcome the decisions taken by the summit. I hope that all member states will do their part, because at the end of the day, this is an alliance which is based on trust and on fair burden sharing.
Prime Minister, if Greece can get to commit to 5% spending of military of GDP, why can't the Spanish? We have very similar history, very similar recent history for Greece and Spain. Surely you can put pressure on Mr. Sanchez to agree to a deal.
Well, first of all, let me say that, as I told you before, we are currently above 3%. So we have a plan to spend more than 25 billion over the next 12 years. So we will reach the 3.5 plus 1.5% threshold by 2035. But the point of an alliance is to make sure that there is a fair burden sharing, and that there is no sense that certain countries are sort of free riding on the defense commitment of other countries. So I think it is important to understand that these targets, I think, should be binding, and they should be binding for all 32 members of the alliance. Thank you.
I think you prefer the German Chancellor.
Wir sehen einem historischen NATO-Gipfel entgegen. Ich möchte zunächst einmal dem Generalsekretär Mark Rutte herzlich Dank sagen für die Vorbereitung, die sehr gute Vorbereitung dieses NATO-Gipfels. Wir hatten gestern Abend bereits Gelegenheit, mit den Staats- und Regierungschefs zu einem Abendessen zusammenzukommen und über verschiedene Themen miteinander zu sprechen. Ich gehe davon aus, dass wir heute eine gemeinsame Entscheidung treffen, die NATO in Zukunft mit wesentlich besseren Mitteln auszustatten. Wir werden einen Beschluss fassen, dass die NATO in Zukunft 3,5% und 1,5% zusätzlich für die Infrastruktur zur Verfügung stellt für unsere Streitkräfte. Dies alles wird in großer Übereinstimmung stattfinden, weil wir übereinstimmend feststellen, dass sich die Bedrohungslage geändert hat. Und die Bedrohung heißt insbesondere Russland. Russland bedroht nicht nur die Ukraine, Russland bedroht den gesamten Frieden, die gesamte politische Ordnung unseres Kontinents. Und deswegen will ich herzlich Dank sagen, dass wir in dieser großen Solidarität in der NATO heute zusammenkommen. Ich will ausdrücklich sagen, die Entscheidungen, die wir treffen, treffen wir nicht, um irgendjemandem einen Gefallen zu tun, sondern wir treffen diese Entscheidungen aus eigener Erkenntnis, aus eigener Überzeugung, dass die NATO insgesamt, und dies betrifft vor allem den europäischen Teil der NATO, in den nächsten Jahren mehr tun muss, um die eigene Verteidigungsfähigkeit zu sichern. Und deswegen gehe ich mit großer Zuversicht heute in diese Beratungen und freue mich darauf, die Kolleginnen und Kollegen in der NATO zu treffen. Herzlichen Dank.
Good morning, everybody. You know, NATO was founded some 75 years ago to defend international law, human rights, the rule of law, and I think this is more important than ever today at a time where we are living in, where we are seeing fundamental geopolitical changes. And in this context, it is quite impressive to see this unity among the 32 members of NATO. I think Europe needs to be a strong pillar of NATO, and that is why, independent of percentages, it is important that we strengthen our military capacities, but moreover, our general security. That goes cyber security, our competence to manage space, satellites, and indeed my country, Luxembourg, has some know-how in that area. So we need to put everything together so that tomorrow NATO will be a strong defense alliance, make sure that we can protect the way of life of our citizens, and to do that together with the United States is of course an asset, because there are many around us who do not like the way of life we have. So I'm happy to be here and to support this common effort for more security.
How truly committed is Donald Trump to NATO, you think?
The fact that the President of the United States is here today is a strong commitment, I think, to NATO.
But he keeps threatening to pull out from his NATO obligations.
I'm here to listen to the President of the United States and to all of the other colleagues. Being together is already something important that we witness here today. Wir sollten nicht nur nach Amerika schauen, wenn wir über unsere eigene Sicherheit nachdenken. Rund um Europa gibt es vieles, was nicht in Ordnung ist zurzeit. Wir haben Russland, wir haben den Nahen Osten, wir haben Ambitionen von China und wir müssen selbst in Europa für unsere Sicherheit sorgen. Natürlich ist, was in Amerika geschieht, wichtig für die Allianz, aber selbst ohne diese unterschiedlichen Positionen haben wir die Sorge, dass wir die Lebensweise, die Lebensart der Europäer, Rechtsstaat, Freiheit, Frieden, die müssen wir absichern, und darum geht es bei diesem NATO-Gipfel.
Belgien und Spanien scheinen eine eigene Auslegung vom 5%-Ziel zu haben. Wie viel Flexibilität braucht man?
Der Weg zu diesen Ausgaben, den muss jeder Staat selbst beschließen, und ich glaube, das, was NATO-Generalsekretär Rutte Spanien geschrieben hat, gilt natürlich für alle. Das heißt, jeder muss souverän, eigenständig seinen Weg zu diesen militärischen Kapazitäten und allgemein zur Sicherheit festlegen. Wir haben 10 Jahre, um das zu tun, und ich glaube, da muss jeder seinen Weg finden, auch angesichts seiner geografischen Lage und seiner Geschichte. Vielen Dank. Artikel 5 ist ein Grundelement der NATO-Charta seit 1949. Das ist die Ursache, weshalb, glaube ich, viele von uns in NATO-Mitglied sind. Auch mein Land als Gründungsmitglied der NATO. Wir werden geschützt auch von den anderen. Und deshalb ist jeder, der hier etwas dazu beiträgt, ist auch ein Garant für die Freiheit und den Frieden anderer Staaten. Und deshalb gilt Artikel 5, auch Artikel 3. Wir müssen alle etwas dazu beitragen, um Sicherheit, Frieden und Freiheit zu garantieren. Vielen Dank.
Prime Minister, Luxembourg's been getting a free pass as well, hasn't it? It hasn't even got to 2% of spending yet, like the Spanish as well. Why hasn't Luxembourg got to 2% spending? And what are the hopes to get to 3.5%, sir?
My government has decided to, like some others, to spend 2% by the end of this year. So we are in line with many others. And our goal is to continue to increase our collective effort in the years to come. Thank you.
Are you worried about Donald Trump's kind of predictable interpretation of Article 5? It is valid for the USA.
So, I would like to say that after the FTA,
I am confident, but I'm afraid that the Russia might have too, so we have to get ready and spend 5% of spending on Russia. So, thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Estar, como disse ontem Marco Rubio, na mensagem que trocou com Donald Trump e que tornou pública nas redes sociais.
Bom, muito bom dia. Eu queria destacar no início desta cimeira 3 aspectos que me parecem determinantes num momento que é um momento particularmente relevante da nossa aliança. Em primeiro lugar, a nova ambição que sairá deste nosso encontro no que toca ao investimento na área da segurança e defesa, com vista a termos uma aliança atlântica com maior capacidade de dissuasão e de defesa do seu espaço territorial. Para esse efeito, todos teremos de fazer um esforço e este é um marco significativo da assunção de uma corresponsabilidade, de, nomeadamente na Europa, podermos acompanhar um nível de investimento compatível com os grandes desafios para enfrentarmos as ameaças e assegurarmos aos cidadãos europeus e também aos portugueses o cumprir da nossa democracia, dos direitos fundamentais dos cidadãos, da possibilidade de continuarmos a ser uma nação soberana, com os nossos aliados a constituírem connosco um espaço de dissuasão de qualquer ameaça à nossa integralidade e ao nosso espaço. Para esse efeito, teremos de investir mais na área da defesa e a segunda nota é reiterar mais uma vez que, da parte do governo português, nós acompanharemos esse esforço. Assumimos já o encargo de este ano atingir 2% do nosso produto em investimento na área da defesa, um investimento que continuará nos próximos anos, dentro de um contexto de equilíbrio, que não porá em causa nem a nossa situação financeira, nem as nossas responsabilidades com todos os serviços públicos que constituem as respostas sociais aos nossos cidadãos, e dizer que olhamos para esta nova etapa não propriamente como a assunção de maior despesa por si só, mas de maior investimento. Nós não queremos apenas gastar mais dinheiro, nós queremos investir mais na nossa indústria, investir mais na nossa capacidade, poder dinamizar a nossa economia, poder aproveitar os nossos recursos humanos que, do ponto de vista tecnológico, estão num estádio de vanguarda, podermos criar novas oportunidades de emprego e temos a repercussão económica deste investimento. E, em terceiro lugar, também destacar que, mais uma vez, creio que na Aliança Atlântica ficará muito claro o apoio à Ucrânia na procura de uma paz justa e duradoura, uma paz com a Ucrânia e uma paz com a Europa também.
Donald Trump fez com que Portugal chegasse aos 2% já este ano e se compromete nos 5%.
Não, nós temos uma perspectiva de poder ter um investimento nos próximos 10 anos que estimamos possa gerar um consenso agora na Cimeira. Não quero já antecipar as conclusões de se poder atingir 3,5% do produto, mas aquilo que é importante para nós salvaguardar é que nós faremos isto com equilíbrio, de forma progressiva, conciliando todas as nossas responsabilidades, nomeadamente a estabilidade financeira e, por via dela, também a responsabilidade que temos de assegurar às portuguesas e aos portugueses todas as respostas sociais e, portanto, não prejudicar nenhum dos nossos eixos de política pública com o reforço deste investimento. Portugal está preparado para ser parte de uma cimeira que marca uma nova fase, que garante a unidade da Aliança Atlântica, que garante a solidariedade entre a Europa, os Estados Unidos, o Canadá, que garante que nós, em conjunto, poderemos continuar a assegurar aos nossos cidadãos que os seus direitos, liberdades e garantias estão salvaguardados, que podemos ter as nossas democracias a funcionar e que podemos ter uma capacidade coletiva de enfrentarmos as ameaças que pairam sobre nós a vários níveis, não só do ponto de vista territorial, mas também do ponto de vista tecnológico. Nós hoje temos ameaças que são mais difíceis, muitas vezes, de percepcionar, mas que todos os dias temos diante de nós, nomeadamente no ciberespaço, nomeadamente naquilo que são hoje contextos de perturbação do normal funcionamento dos regimes democráticos e que existem efetivamente, e para enfrentar essas ameaças nós precisamos desta solidariedade. Muito obrigado e bom trabalho. Obrigado.
Good to see you.
Mr. Prime Minister.
You are the Hungarians over there, okay.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Are we moving to 5% from Hungary's point of view? If so, is this of a level to deter Russian aggression? And is NATO creating more problems in its relation?
Too long. The question is too long. Sorry. Come back to the 5%. Yeah. With one precondition. So we are able to do it. It's not easy, but the whole calculation of budget regulation of European Union must be changed. So if we keep the regulation as it is, nobody in the European Union is able to fulfill 5%, whatever they say. So we have to recalculate everything in a different method. In that case, we can do.
Aren't you fiddling the figures?
Sorry?
Aren't you fiddling the figures? Creative accounting.
You like it?
Mr. Orban, isn't it concerning that our global security depends on one man's ego, Donald Trump's?
I don't think so. The international order is more based on common sense. And the President of the United States is a man of the common sense. As you have seen just recently, to manage the conflict between Iran and Israel. So he's the man of common sense. Which means that the new wars getting shorter and the old wars are running out of the fuel, which is the consequence of his activity. Sorry.
He's porting the biggest threat to Europe. He's porting the biggest threat to Europe.
Biggest threat to Europe? Losing the competitiveness. That's the real threat, not the real threat is not security-wise, it's economic and losing our competitiveness on the global trade. That's our problem.
Do you think that Russia will be mentioned?
Donald Trump's leadership towards NATO.
Sorry?
What do you think of Donald Trump's leadership?
Welcome back.
Do you think he deserves as much credit as Mark Rutte gave him in his private text messages yesterday?
Styles are different in many countries.
Mr. Prime Minister, do you expect Russia to be mentioned?
Sorry.
Do you expect that Russia will be mentioned as a threat or an adversary in a final statement after the summit?
It's always mentioned like that.
Do you support it?
I think Russia is not strong enough to represent a real threat to us. We are far stronger. Blocking what? No, we don't block it. NATO has no business in Ukraine. Ukraine is not member of NATO, neither Russia. And my job is to keep it as it is. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It's always good to talk after Victor. First of all, I would like to say that this is a very important meeting, and this is not about the technical details or about the decisions of secondary importance. I think we should choose the motto, make NATO great again. And in the center of this ambition is 5% level of spending. 5% do not deter. The percentages do not fight on the battlefield. But they must be translated into the cash, and the cash should be translated into real capabilities. We have to admit we are lagging behind of Russia. And Russia is producing much more equipment and ammunition as we taken together. So for Baltic countries, for the Lithuania I represent, it's pretty clear that we even don't need the transitional periods. We are ready to do our job right now. 4% this year, And next year, we intend to spend 5.25% of our GDP, keeping that level of spending until 2030. I would like to extend my gratitude to President Donald Trump, because without his engagement, I can imagine that we would discuss probably the level of 2.5% with no clear outcome and positive outcome. Probably those discussions will lead to nothing. So sometimes the external pressure of our biggest ally is very useful in order to get the point, to understand the, how to say, heat of the moment and to do our job. Why we need 5% in my country? We need in order to modernize our army, to create a national division, and to be ready to grant the best conditions for our allies, for our best friends and allies, Germany, United States. The 1,000 soldiers are stationed in Lithuania, United States soldiers. We have very ambitious plan to have full-scale German brigade until 2027. So for that, we need financial resources, and we are ready to do that. Sorry, it's not...
Mr. Orban just said that actually the biggest threat to Europe is lack of competition, lack of competitiveness. When he was asked if Mr. Putin is the biggest threat, I presume you believe Mr. Putin...
I could agree with Victor in this regard, that competition is important. But, you know, we should understand very well, without the security, without our readiness to defend every inch of allied territories, all other remaining issues are just not relevant. Because if we lose our territorial integrity and independence, why we need this competitiveness? For what?
Do you believe Donald Trump would come to your aid if you were attacked? Do you believe Donald Trump would come to your aid if you were attacked?
I believe here in Article 5, and I think that Article 5 is very simple. One for all for one. And I am looking forward to hear and to listen what will be the description of Article 5. But in my understanding, Article 5 is pretty clear.
But Trump keeps changing his mind.
I don't think so, and I really appreciate the President Trump. If he would not interested in the future of the NATO, why he would push these 5% on the table? I think this is very important to understand. If some person is interested to get the organization stronger, then proposals are coming, and proposals are coming from our biggest ally, and we have to respect those proposals.
But Mr. President, what do you think? What is your assessment? Why Russia poses so big threat to us now? What are Mr. Putin's goals at the moment?
Let's go to the year 2007-2008. Mr. Putin said that the largest tragedy of 20th century was the collapse of Soviet Union. And if you listen what he's saying carefully, you will explain all the activities we faced in the recent decade, starting from Crimea, going to the war in Ukraine, and of course these threats. These threats are around us. And of course we should talk not only about Ukraine, Middle East, incidents in the Baltic Sea, almost everyday incidents, attacks against the critical infrastructure. This is our reality. This is our business as usual. And this is because of Russian activities. And of course, close ally Belarus, because Belarus is another issue, and we have very long border with Belarus, and we face another kind of hybrid activities, for example, in the form of illegal and instrumentalized migration.
Mr. President.
I'm from the Netherlands. We have done so for the we hope that they follow the German decision.
We appreciate very much your contribution, because this is an integral part of EFP troops in Lithuania, and we all are working as a one strong power. 2035, of course, looking from our perspective, it is too late, because as I mentioned, we are ready to spend immediately 5%, and we would be happy to see that our allies, our partners, we are ready to do the same. But you know, NATO, like the European Council, is the organization of the consensus. If they reach the consensus and the consensus is 2035, let's be like that. And I hope that we will increase the financing every year, consequently, in order to reach this target.
Mr. President, given that everyone seems to be
As a forerunner on defense spending, how concerned are you about the flexible interpretation of the 5% target from Spain and Belgium? Do you think this can actually jeopardize the declaration?
I read the sentence. Allies are obliged to spend 5%, 3.5% on the core defense spending, 1.5% on additional infrastructure spending, and to do that until 2035. And I cannot see any interpretations in the text. We all are obliged, and this is our common duty, to do the best. We should just make organization capable to withstand the pressure, not necessarily only the pressure of Russian Federation, but also the pressure of some other hostile nations. So this is our task.
Everyone seems to be having a different interpretation of what Donald Trump meant about Article 5. Do you believe that allies should have this conversation today at the table?
I don't know if there will be some conversation. It would be very useful, because it would be pretty clear what is the Article 5. And maybe we need this very frank discussion about Article 5, because if we describe and we understand Article 5, we understand, our understanding is the same, of course it would mean that organization will be safer without no interpretations. Maybe this discussion has to come.
So you agree that now everyone has like slightly different
Maybe
interpretations?
I will have some more answers to your question probably after our today's meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I hope that the bilateral meeting of President Zelensky and United States President Donald Trump will take place. And I hope this is most important to know, that there is close contact between United States and Ukraine. And it's very important to keep this constant contact, to explain the arguments, to explain the situation, because the situation is changing every day. We understand. We are not far away from Ukraine. We understand the situation is changing. Not necessarily to the positive side, because Russia is trying to push the territories to go deeper into the territory of Ukraine. And probably this is a calculation of Vladimir Putin, just to imitate the negotiations, and meanwhile to attack, to occupy even larger territories of Ukraine, and maybe then somewhen sit at the table and to start peace negotiations. But I think this is not a very fair approach, and we have to resist it. Thank you.
policy in Russia.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President. Where are you going to hold the summit next year?
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. President, you went to a
to the threshold. We're going to move up, you said, yeah? You said we're going to move up? Yeah, we're standing. Good morning, sir. We'll start right here, and in 3, 2, 1.
Somebody that's actually asking.
Can you believe it?
Thank you.
That's amazing.
So I'll also. That's the picture we want. Yeah.
Well, I hope you slept well.
It was great.
Yeah?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. But actually, Mr. Grant, to tell you, that's you.
Also you.